Now, if you've ever met one of your childhood heroes, you'll love this story coming up now. We're talking about a film called Waiting for Anya. And in a way, it starts with a young man with a dream, really, isn't it? It's Toby Torles, who didn't just meet his literary hero, that's the author, Sir Michael Perger, but he also volunteered to adapt one of his books as a movie. Well,
we're going to speak to Toby and Sir Michael in just a moment. But first of all, here's a little clip of the film called Waiting for Anya.
As I feed it to the pigs, they're hungry, you know? So tell me, boy, what did you see in the barn?
Nothing, madame.
Nothing? I know your father. He's a hard-working shepherd when he's not away soldiering. Takes after his father, your grandfather. But maybe the less said about him, the better. I'll ask you one more time, boy. What did you see in the barn?
I was only looking for the bear cub.
You're not answering the question.
No.
You always tell the truth?
No, madame.
It's a rare thing, an honest boy.
Well, Toby is with us now. Michael joins us as well from his home in Devon. So, Michael, thank you for your time. But, Toby, we ought to start with you, this remarkable story. A boy who didn't read and then you picked up Warhorse.
Yeah, I mean, it's been one hell of a journey. I mean, as you say, I was a really reluctant reader as a boy until I picked up Warhorse age 9. It was the first book I read cover to cover. And then I was lucky enough to meet Michael at a production of Warhorse at the National Theatre.
In fact, you have the programme,
yeah, I do.
don't you?
Actually,
which he signed
indeed,
for you.
he signed it for me on the night, on the third day, or on the third night of the production. And then when I left school, I decided, you know what, I'll write to my childhood hero and see if he'll give me a shot to adapt my favourite of his books.
So Michael's listening now. So that meeting, right? Did you do that thing where you said, I think I can write. I think I can do this. Did you do that thing?
Oh, absolutely not. Not then.
No.
I was far too shy. When I met him, it was a case of sidling up, asking him to sign my programme, then ran away again, and then came back with a couple of books. And we had a little chat. He actually nicknamed me Rugby Boy because I was wearing an England rugby shirt. And it was one of those formative moments, and I've never forgotten it.
I tell you what, Michael, I know that, you know, we've spoken before, and you are one of these people who so encourages, you know, creativity in its most general sense, but people to write. Can you remember those early meetings?
Yeah, hello both. Hello, Toby. Yeah, I can't remember meeting him the first time, no, because I just remember the rugby shirt. I don't remember him, I'm going to be honest here, and I signed the book. But then what happened was that, I don't know, 5 years later, we got a letter from him saying that he had chosen his favourite book, Waiting for Anya, and he wanted to write a film script of it, which we thought, fine, how wonderful that is that a young lad really wants to get started like this. And I felt very good that he was doing it, but come on, he was only a young boy, nothing was going to happen, nothing was going to happen. Well, something did happen, because he wrote a really, really good script. And along with Ben Cookson, the director, they refined it and refined it and refined it, and then they filmed it. They went down to the place where the story actually happens in the Pyrenees, and made this extraordinary film with these extraordinary stars in it. I'm just amazed, and all this came from one meeting, you know.
It's wonderful, and the film itself, and perhaps the clips in some ways don't do it justice, because it's stunning to look at. It's such a beautiful part of the world, and they filmed it, as you say, in the village where this, well, it's based on true events, isn't it, where this story was set?
Yes. Yes. I mean, there are two stories, the story of the writing of it and the story of Toby, and the story of the writing of it was a trip my wife and I made, and we just came across this little village, Lescun, met a lovely man who was the mayor of Lescun, who gave us pâté and gave us wine and a nice lunch, and we just got talking. I live on a farm in Devon and I know sheep, and he lived on a farm in the Pyrenees and he knew sheep, so we just got talking, and I happened to ask him, I said, how long have you been living here? He said, I was born here. So I said, well, you were here during the occupation in 1943. When the Germans came, he said, oh yes, I was there then. I was about 10 or 11. And then he started talking about it and talking about it, and then told me this extraordinary story about a lady who lived on the edge of the village, and they didn't know it at the time. But all the way through the occupation, the 2.5 years, whatever, the German soldiers were actually garrisoned in the village, in amongst the people. She was hiding away young people, Jewish children mostly, in her barns and in her attics. And she was in a safe house. They had this thing in France where they would, brave people would pass down those people who were trying to escape from occupied Nazi Europe from house to house to house. And the last safe house was just by the mountains, by the Pyrenees. And then she looked after them and arranged their escape. She saved the lives of dozens, probably hundreds of these children, and then escorted them over into Spain. And I tumbled across this story. And because I'm always fascinated by what I don't know, and in this country, I mean, here I am in the middle of Devon. We've never been occupied. We've never had jackboots stomping through our village. We have no idea what it's like at all. We do know, though, what happened in Europe and the threat and the horror and the camps and all this stuff. It's kind of over there. It's not here. We know the stories. And I think these stories are so important to tell, both of the Holocaust, of which, of course, this is really about saving children from the Holocaust, and about being occupied.
Well, I know that, Toby, you feel very strongly about that this is very relevant to, you know, the young generations of readers and film watchers today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we see the rise of anti-Semitism across Europe. We see the refugee crisis. And unless you tell these stories and target and address these stories to children and try and tell these stories to children, then sadly history has this horrible way of repeating itself.
I tell you what, Toby, as well, listening to Michael just sort of going through the tale, even like that, sort of anecdotally, you completely get why young people are so inspired by his work, don't you?
Oh,
That's that natural storytelling. He can sit in you're in your kitchen or something, Michael, just able to tell us a tale, which I suppose that's the heart of all of it,
I'm
isn't it?
sitting in the kitchen with some daffodils. I put the daffodils here especially for you. I hope you see those.
Oh, it looks very beautiful.
Brightened up our morning.
I'm a bit disappointed you haven't got a coffee cup or anything there with you, but it is the very principle of storytelling. You could be sitting at your kitchen table as you are now, or writing in a book. That's the basic principle, isn't it?
It is. I mean, my great-grandchild was here the other day, and I was sitting with her on my lap and just telling her a story. And there was one particular moment when I was telling her, and I thought, well, I'm supposed to be good at this stuff. Well, she didn't think so. She just picked up the story I was telling and went on with it herself. And that's what's wonderful about it. It enables children to tell stories themselves and to find their own voice, and to find out massively also about the world about them. It's a wonderful way of communicating between ourselves and an older generation, in particular in my case, and young people, is to tell the stories, and the stories that came before me.
The story itself is incredibly tense in moments. Of course it is, because of the subject matter, and it's about, you know, the protection and the hiding of these children and sort of ferreting them away and using the whole shepherding system as a cloak, really, for what was happening to them. And I'm always fascinated that children can cope with that kind of level of tension and difficult subject matter, actually.
No, I think it was something which we were very aware of from the outset, in that Ben and I, director Ben Cookson, we wanted to make sure that this is a film which you can show to children, and it's an introduction to what, as you say, is a very difficult subject matter. But so it was, from the outset, our intent was never to make a Schindler's List, a Pianist, because those films are incredible works of art, but they're also horrifying.
Probably too dark in a way for many young people.
Exactly, and this needs to be a story which is universal. And it needs a story in the same way when I first read the book. It was one of the first books which truly made me think as a young boy, and I wanted the film to be the same. It was an eye-opener for that younger audience. And
I'm assuming, Michael, it gets the Mapergo seal of approval, the film, does it? Is that right to assume?
Absolutely, and I was there. I think it's a wonderful film. It's a wonderful telling of the story. It's extremely beautiful. It's very, very moving, and I'm in it. I don't like to sort of blow my own trumpet, but I have the smallest part of that any extra has ever had in any film.
What do you play?
Blink. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to see the film and see if you can find the moment. You will see me just for a moment. I'm so proud of that moment. No, seriously, it's a lovely film. It's beautifully made. Do you know what's wonderful about it? It's made with unbelievable integrity. What they don't do is patronize. It was and is a very beautiful place, and this dreadful thing happened there. And it does happen. These things happen in beautiful places amongst wonderful people. And it shows us that there is courage, there is kindness, and we mustn't always focus on the dark side.
Michael Mapergo, lovely to talk to you this morning from your kitchen. Thank you so much. Toby, thank you as well. And the film Waiting for Anya is in cinemas now. Michael Mapergo is in it.
You can play a sort of literary Where's Wally with Michael Mapergo in that film.